And we're back.
Hello.
Hey.
Back for the final 37 minutes.
Infinite
Right.
minutes.
So you guys wanted to talk a little bit about what seafaring cultures might be in the island area. Did you have any specific thoughts on that yet, or? I also thought of a different thought, but I wanted to jump into this one first.
Well, not that I have any experience in being a pirate, but I've always heard that like each ship is its own country, its own nation. So maybe if you want to define like the traits you have aboard your ship and what you enforce, that might be a way to go with it.
And that could be like, you can say what things are common and what things you do differently, basically, compared to most ships.
Well, that could be more of like a fleet or naval thing, right? So there could be like almost like the high beam armada and Stars Without Numbers, right? Like there could be loosely connected seafaring cultures that sort of use the same lingos and everything, but instead of just each particular ship, right?
Yeah.
Do you think seafarers tend to be smelly? I think they tend to be smelly.
Louse ridden.
Smelly? Sure.
Scurvy.
Everyone has scurvy.
It's an actual trait.
Really?
But it's not a character trait.
Oh, okay.
Wait, no, actually it might be a character trait. Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, similar to how it is in real life, it could be a stereotypical character trait in this game.
Yeah. Do you think is there like a look or something people have when they're like, well, you don't even live on an island, like
Tanned?
tan?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say
wiry?
like what is the word?
Sinewy?
Swarthy, maybe.
Never heard that word.
It's kind of that Mediterranean look. You know, you're tanned and olive skinned and
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that works.
Okay. I could just say Mediterranean look.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Makes
swarthy
sense.
is more of a it's more of a pejorative, I guess, than
Really?
Mediterranean. You know?
I always think it was a positive word. Means healthy. Okay.
I also want to say something like, like they always come and go. Like they're always on a ship going somewhere. They don't like being
Like they're always traveling. They're like tied down.
tied to stuff. Yeah. So
Nomadic.
Yeah, nomadic or
Just transient as a thing.
transient wanderlust.
Wanderlust. That's perfect.
Yeah. Wanderlust. Okay, so that's 3.
Cool.
So, the ones we have so far is like smelly, and so is this like sweaty smelly, or like they always smell like salts, or
All sorts.
Do you guys hunt whales?
Yeah, I think being that you're talking about a sea culture and you're talking about how the landlubbers see you, probably smelly would be more. You smell like the sea. You smell like fish. You know.
Yeah.
You don't have the fresh water to spare to bathe all the time either. So
And you
when you're
wouldn't-
coming off that
or
boat, you
when we
stink.
bathe, we just take a jump off the boat.
And you wouldn't
Yep.
notice it yourself necessarily because you would just be like way too used to it for weeks on end. So
Yep.
So I'm gonna modify that to say fishy / salty smelling.
It
Or
smells like
you guys have a
fats.
better
Smells like
Smells
fats.
of the sea.
smells of the sea. Okay.
Because the thing to remember also is how much maintenance goes into keeping a boat afloat. Like, you have to be constantly cleaning all the sea creatures off the side. You got to be constantly like plugging the gaps with tar and oil.
Yeah, lots of messy stuff.
And
It's
what
not-
with all the rigging and everything, calloused might be a good one too.
Ooh, that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Maybe even instead of like dark-skinned or swarthy. Though that is very good. I like callous even better, honestly.
Like swarthy.
Okay. So there isn't really like this like
If we're going for
to phrase it a different way, like seafarer people aren't dainty, like they'll definitely get their hands dirty and do everything.
Yep.
yeah,
And
because
that's what we're going. That's what
for
we're
a
going
sort
with
of,
callous.
Northern European vibe for the islands, I definitely think that callous would be a bigger
Right.
deal than tanned.
So going with like the European vibe, would the seafarer thing also be like sort of like our equivalent of like gypsies? Or
Yeah.
did we
Yeah, I could
Not
I
really
could see
wanna-
that.
like
I mean, are you talking about like the bad part of gypsies, or like
all of
you know,
it?
are we
Both,
looking?
yeah.
Are we talking about like Romany gypsy type stuff, or are we talking about how the English view pikers? So that there's
Right.
not much difference because they're both really looked down on, but
Uh,
at least the Romany gypsies, weren't necessarily cast out of everything.
I feel like
I think
there's
the Romany
so
gypsies
many sailors that disliking sailors as a
it's not
caste.
really possible.
I mean, most
It's
of
not.
these people are probably going to be eating fish.
Yeah. Except
Right.
in the mainland, they might have some farms.
Yeah, like
Uh,
there's some places where there's farms, but like every
Right.
But
every
it is
single
the-
community will have a fishing, and it might be
Yeah.
like literally many cities will be fishing communities.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
it is the
mean-
main form of trade. So, like when you see a sailor coming, that means new stuff's coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't
It
mean
might actually be looked at as a good thing.
it doesn't mean it won't work. It could be like literally half the population is considered to be as low as shit. Like even the beggar is considered to be better than a sailor. But there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
That
It's
if we
just
make
so
an
many.
yeah,
exam decision, it's going to be major.
Yeah, I don't think they're really looked down on because, I mean, when a sailor comes into town in this type of environment, that's how you're getting your news. That's how you're getting your goods.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was a thought because we were trying to go with the European stuff,
I just
but
wanted to make sure
Yeah,
if
we
we
could-
did go that way, it was actually important.
so the traits I have then for what I'm collectively calling seafarer, I don't know if we want to call it something else though, is smells of the sea, calloused, and wanderlust.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's exactly how mainlanders would, or landlubbers would see it.
Landlubbers. Yep.
So I guess the last sort of cultural thing I was curious about that I thought of during the break that I wasn't asking of is like we have a lot of these sort of like Scottish or Eastern European or traditional European in the continent, but also there's this vibe of like Primarch, you were saying like some of the islands are going to have a Mesoamerican feel to it, but
Maybe
lot
that's
of
just
these
the
things-
ruins that
right,
do.
a lot of these places have separate languages, and so like, is there like a common language? Are there specific languages to each island? Like, how
I
does
think
language tie into all this?
I think at least sailors would have, and port cities would have a patois kind of thing if there are separate languages.
Sailor
So
Yeah.
like
camps?
sailors probably speak. Yeah, it's a sailor's camp basically. It
Mhm.
blends a bunch of different things so that when a ship arrives, merchants can talk to these people.
Yeah.
So I guess then,
To be honest,
adding. Okay, go for it.
I feel that the archipelago is too dense and close together to have separate languages within it. It could definitely have a separate language from the continent, but that's my thought.
I think
Okay.
that
And
the major powers could communicate, but remember, like the scale here is huge. Like there's
That's
probably
true.
like 100 islands for each city. And the people
And-
on
and
those
remember,
will
we're-
never go to another island besides the one they trade with primarily.
And we are only looking at like a current snapshot of the political climate. I mean,
Yeah.
at one point, this could have been all the same people occupying these lands.
Yeah.
So there might be dialects between the islands,
Okay.
but it could all be the same base language.
Yeah. Like how there's
Okay.
100 varieties of Chinese.
Cool.
And I think if we want to bring in like the Mesoamerican vibe into some of this stuff, maybe some of the more savage, I guess, islands, the uncivilized islands, have tribes of people on them.
Okay. Cool. I was just curious because also there's actually a specific skill for like foreign languages and languages and stuff.
Yeah, which I took.
I wasn't quite sure how all of that would tie in with all these different islands and stuff. Because like the seafarer guy, I didn't necessarily take like foreign languages or anything, but I would have assumed I would have been like Zen was saying, like I have some sort of parlance at most ports I can do, but I wasn't sure what we thought for different languages and stuff. Because sometimes I see like personally, like when I'm in games and like we go everywhere, it's like everywhere there's common. Like sometimes that sort of seems like a cop out, but
Yeah.
I just want to get your vibe for it.
I'm good either way.
It depends on what kind of game you want to play.
Right.
If we're
Well, it's also
playing
one
a
of those things
game
This is
where
a
each
game where we
person
might.
has their specialty, and we're going to play a lot of like focusing on what that character does and how the other characters support that character, then having lots of languages makes sense. If we're going to play in a game where we are all going to work together on everything, then we should have a common language.
I also think, actually, now that I think about it, separate languages would be more interesting because this is a game where there is an organization trying to unify the islands, and I think that would be more interesting if there were separate languages.
That's true.
It also seems like this is on some level going to have some sort of political slant to it, and so having the finer grained detail with some of the languages would make some of that stuff interesting, much like being in a slippery area and doing combat would be a more interesting thing.
We haven't done anything with religions yet. What if the languages are religious languages, and the people, the vast majority of people only know the religious language?
I've never seen much ties between religious language and regular language, because even in like history, churches have spoken in Latin.
I mean, historically, there's reasons for that, because the religions survived.
That they didn't make other people speak in Latin outside of church. So,
but
I'm not sure.
If the only education the islands have is going to church, then I could see generations of people eventually losing the common tongue, and just knowing Latin or knowing Hebrew or knowing Babylonian.
But another thing is, it could be the opposite, because most religions use texts, and assuming that they don't have the people to do translations of those texts or anything, they would stick with that language, and basically what they speak would be based out of those texts. Which means if assuming the texts don't change, then their language wouldn't change either.
But it does still seem like we're doing the traditional burning mill thing where most people don't know how to read or write. So
that's true.
Everything is spoken.
And remember, we're not in the printing press era. These are all illuminated texts. So the only people writing these texts will be people of that religion. You won't just take it to the city and have 1,000 copies printed out.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it'd be interesting to explore how the world would be different if this had been different in history.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Zen?
Yeah. I'm
Now we have something
I'm good with that.
to spark ideas about religion.
Did you want to have like a base overview of like, is everyone predominantly one, and so we all talk the same, or is there like two or three, or is it like one is all the same, but like then it's like Abrahamic, right? Then it like split into 3 or 4 different sub-religions, or
I think probably the further you get from the continent, the more obscure religions you get into.
Yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
the continent seems to be like, because we have all these islands and then a really big continent that could do all the farming and everything, it seems like the trade would flow into the islands from there.
right?
So
Well,
so you'd have a lot of cultural mixing through that, but the further away you go, the less trade you have, so therefore the less mixing.
I guess that is a question though. Like, what is the trade to the continent?
Slaves.
Right? Like slaves
And specialty goods. I mean, we could treat it like the Caribbean, where like because of the climate change difference, we have sugars and we have
Sugars.
liquors and that
Right,
kind of thing.
tobacco and stuff like that.
Yep.
Okay, specialty goods. Okay, but then the main thing from the continent is foods and food stores.
And probably, well, we do have mountains down in the islands. I was going to say like ores and stuff like that, but
Probably
Well,
wood though,
yeah.
like lumber and stuff. Or?
yeah, definitely.
Definitely lumber.
Yeah, on an island,
I imagine most of these are jungle trees, and jungle trees suck for making boats.
Or bamboo and stuff, like weeds and stuff.
Yeah. Alcohol is probably major from the mainland.
Well, if we have like the sugars and
grain-based
stuff,
alcohol.
yeah,
should
grain-based,
be,
yeah. Or like rums and other sugar. Would like mead be something then? If we have like bees and stuff, right? But
Yeah, we probably cultivate honey and that kind of stuff too down here.
or like ale and wine would be something from the continent.
Yep. Oh, macroeconomics. Gotta love it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there anything culturally, like maybe we get plays, like we'll have artists come, and like maybe Shakespeare is from the Empire?
Yeah, there could be like cultural imports to the islands as well.
We can figure that out later.
Yeah, that could be something for later. Let me see. I did have a few things. Let's go over the health and skill questions
Okay.
Sure.
Yep.
for our characters.
And then
And then I had at least one other question I wanted to talk about, but we can do this first. So, is everyone ready for health?
Yeah.
Can you give me a page number on that?
Well, the page number I'm going off of is 91. And it's the questions that modify your health.
Are those in a handout?
So, for those listening, health starts as the average of will and fort. And you, depending on these lists of questions, you can add or subtract from that number. All right, cool. So, does the character live in squalor and filth?
Are we going to answer them as a group or one at a time? Like, we're going to ask each question to a person?
I was thinking we answer all of them as a group.
Okay.
yeah, we'll answer them for our character at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like anyone qualified for this.
Nope.
I don't
Except
think
maybe Ernest, who is like the slave
The
soldier
slave,
guy.
yeah. Well, he was in the army.
I
doesn't-
would assume that I don't think that my lord would keep me in squalor and filth.
But plus, that was
Yeah,
this is a present time
Yeah.
question, not a in the
Yeah.
past. Have you?
Yeah. So
So, okay.
I assume
So-
that you don't.
Okay. Nope. So everyone was a no there. Okay. So the next question is: the character frail or sickly?
No.
So,
Nope.
I feel like my character has had mental abuse from saying the supernatural horror. I couldn't decide if this should affect his health or not.
That's
that might be
probably more.
steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So no.
Okay. Was the character severely wounded in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Ernest was severely wounded in the past during the war.
Okay.
Nope.
Anyone else?
I don't think. I don't
Right,
think
Barrett?
Nico was.
Ernest, subtract 1 from your health.
Okay.
Okay. Has the character been tortured and enslaved?
Roll 20 broke for a sec. Hold on, I was being super slow.
No.
Yes, I was born a slave.
You were tortured and enslaved? 'Cause it's got to be both.
Both?
Yeah.
Oh, can't be enslaved. You're already a slave.
I don't think I was tortured. I don't think it was that bad.
Right. Yeah, so I don't think anyone. So, are you a dwarf, elf, or orc? I guess not.
No.
That's a no.
But if you are, you get to add 1 just because you're a dwarf, elf, or orc.
I'm a
So,
super.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
overpowered.
yeah. So, is the character athletic and active?
Yes.
I was going to say
I'm gonna
yes
say-
to mine.
I was going to say yes to mine.
Nico's a yes as well.
So, everyone who said yes adds 1 to their health.
Okay.
Okay.
And finally, for health, does the character live in a really clean and happy place, like the hills in The Sound of Music?
Not anymore.
I don't think any of these
Yeah.
lands would qualify for that.
No. But Running Wheel isn't fun when anything is like the lands of the Sound of Music.
Right.
Well, I mean, there could be that one tiny ass little island that someone's from.
Yeah. It's literally they're the only person there, and that's why it's happy, because they don't have to deal with other people.
Yeah, we're really happy because when the volcano explodes, everyone who is sad dies.
Right. So,
You
okay,
sacrifice the unhappy
We-
people.
we can move on to Steel then. So, Steel starts as B3, and then we answer the following questions, which can modify it. Here's interesting. Also, 5 yes answers here can be used instead to buy a gray shade on Steel.
Nice.
So that's interesting. So first question for Steel. Has the character taken a conscript, soldier, bandit, squire, or knight type life path?
Yes.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes. Everyone with yes, add 1 to Steel. Has the character ever been severely wounded?
Yes.
If the player was a soldier, knight, bandit, etc., raise Steel by 1. Otherwise, lower Steel by 1.
No, he's not crippled.
Has the character ever murdered or killed with his own hand?
More than once, right?
Yes.
If he has done so more than once, raise Steel by 1. And my Steel went up by 1 there too.
I think my dad was like, the king was like Ned from Game of Thrones. Only instead of making him watch the guy get beheaded, he did the beheading.
Okay.
Now,
I'm 3
can
for 3.
we
Want
quantify
that gray shade?
murdered or killed? I mean, does that mean like outside of military action?
No, that includes military action.
Okay, then probably yes.
Has the character been tortured, enslaved, or beaten terribly over time?
And since I was born a slave, this would be a yes for me, since it's or.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Is your will 5 or higher?
No.
Is will 3 or lower?
Yes.
If will is 3 or lower, reduce Steel by 1.
Alright.
If your will is 4, there's no change. So I'm not sure how that works for Ernest.
It's 4, so there's no change.
4, no change, okay.
I might raise it if I need to.
Has the character led a sheltered life free from violence and pain?
No.
No.
Nope.
It's the burning wheel.
Yeah. Has the character been raised in a competitive but non-violent culture. Sports, debate, strategy games, and courting.
I think so.
I took the student life path. Does that count? I mean,
Well, what kind of, who taught you? What were you at?
I'm thinking that Cadenfell has a pretty heavy emphasis on education. Like
Okay.
they want their people to be smart. But I don't know if it's. I mean,
There's also,
scholastic
like,
life is inherently competitive, I think.
Right. But also, if you want to go like with the Scottish culture and everything, there's all the games and stuff with like the different rock throwing and all this stuff.
Caber tossing and all that.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Okay.
So if you said yes to that, raise steel by 1. And I'm not sure if Edwin would qualify there. I'm not sure how competitive his area was. It sounds competitive though.
It was really competitive. Like just being an archaeologist for 10 years, like.
Well, no, like when you were
Just
being raised.
When you were being raised as a kid.
Well, sure.
As a noble.
Like
how competitive was it to be a lord?
It was really competitive hunting. And then when I went to magic school, it was really competitive. And
so you could raise your skill by 1 as well.
All right.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how many siblings I have, but I'm sure I had to compete with them.
Right. But I think, like, for instance, my character and Ernest don't qualify for this because we were grown up in a competitively violent culture. Has the character given birth to a child?
You can't. I asked about this. Only women can have this.
Yeah. Is the character gifted or faithful or an equivalent? No. I don't think anyone is.
I'm loyal, but I don't think that's the same thing.
No.
These are the supernatural.
No, it's the extra stat.
Okay.
Yeah. Is the character's perception exponent 6 or higher?
No.
I don't think anyone has that.
Oh, mine's 4. Yeah.
If
the will exponent is 5 or higher. Anyone?
Yep.
No.
If the will stat is exponent 5 or higher, raise steel by 1.
Nice.
And it also goes up when it's 7. Will of a 7.
It goes up again.
Does anyone have? Does anyone's fort 6 or higher?
No.
No.
Well, actually, let me look at this. I was thinking about raising my fort to see how high I can get it.
Right.
I'm considering changing my will to 5, but I don't think it's worth it because my character is not that willful. Even though I'll get a gray shade steel.
And you're broken, so that's like your will is broken.
Exactly.
Right.
What?
So
fort of what?
I can't justify him having more than 4 will.
Fort of 6 or higher.
Apparently, I said yes. Okay. Apparently, that's what my character sheet says.
Okay. Right. If your character's fort is exponent 6 or higher, you raise steel by 1.
Nice.
And that is all the steel and health questions. Now, there was one final thing I had to add, but I don't know if anyone has anything off the top of the head they want to ask.
Did you want me to lower my steel for facing the supernatural evil thing? Because that is a difficulty 10 steel test, or OBS 10.
No, I don't think so. Not unless you take a trait for it or something.
Yeah,
well, I
took a light
will
sleeper trait.
in accordance with that already, so okay.
So the final thing I am curious about is the sort of resource cycle. I don't know how many of you guys have looked into that, but so the resources stat works off of like a cycle of like when people get paid and everything, and when you need to check to make sure you are good on your rent and everything. And we can sort of denote how much time in game. Here we go. All right, found it. The GM should set the time of the resource cycle. This determines how long it will take to recover taxed resources dice. Setting this cycle most definitely influences the time patterns of the story to be. If the players are expecting a 24-hour scenario, then setting the cycle at a month ensures the players won't recover the resources during the adventure. Setting the cycle at a year means characters are going to need a lot of time to have their goals and desires met. There will be a lot of seasons pass narration. This is on page 549, if you guys want to look at it. But so like the idea is like, how often do you guys does everyone in the world sort of like get paid and have to make bills and everything, and when they can regain stuff they lost?
Yeah, how often does the tax collector come around?
Right. I was thinking pretty slow, so like every 6 months type thing.
I like 6 months.
I was also thinking 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
So how this works though is like within the first 6 months, we're all assumed to be all paid up and good and everything. But like if you want to acquire new gear, you're gonna have to roll resources, and so then if you fail, you'll lose certain parts of your resources because they'll be taxed, and you won't be able to regain them until the next cycle, so to speak. Right. So that's kind of how all this connects.
I mean,
my resources is currently 0, so how will that work?
Mine is 0 as well.
You can't be taxed.
But
okay.
But Sith, your character has a ship.
Yeah.
So like, you could end up losing your ship to taxes, correct?
I believe so. Oh. I'm not exactly sure how all the resource stuff works.
Yeah, I believe it goes against property when you don't have enough money.
Okay, good. Yeah. I don't have any of that.
But it can get bad. I think that is sort of most of the setting stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
If we want to start getting into people's bits.
I think let's do that. I think we have enough time. We might go slightly over time, but only slightly.
That's fine. Cool. I don't know what time we actually want to end. Like, I'm good until midnight, which is like 3 hours away. But we can end after
my girlfriend's out of town, so I can go till sunup. I don't care.
Yeah. Let's talk about bits first.
But before we actually dive into bits, though, can we recap like what the campaign is probably going to be about, like what we see it being about first?
Because we've done a lot of the setting, but then we place our characters within that setting.
So let me switch you guys back over to what I had originally wrote. It's here. Yep. So I had it in the top box. It loads, hopefully. Oh, there it goes. It's a scroll. So premise. Burgeoning city-states must come together to influence the power of the continent to thwart their ever-increasing supply of legendary weapons capable of controlling volcanic and seismic activity on grand scales. A measly few in the city-states have begun the slow process of finding, acquiring, and making treaties to ensure the survival of the city-states. Nestled among these island city-states, we find our intrepid player characters working in an archaeological dig site, hoping to find what they came for. And so, I think the big sort of quote-unquote scenario or conflict we're looking at is the combination of how these legendary weapons influence power and structure among the island nations against the so-called continental empire. Thoughts?
That sounds about right. Are we going to be working for this organization that is behind this?
Right.
Is that like the focal point for us? Is that we are agents of this organization?
But we don't know it, or not all of us know it.
Yeah, you don't have to know about the organization. So I think in my mind, I'm going to rule it either one of two ways. Either you have a belief about the organization to help it, or make sure it keeps going in some way, or you have a belief about these like legendary weapons in some way. And how they're bad, right? So I think if you have one of those as one of your 3 beliefs, I think we're good to get all the scenario stuff going, right?
Yeah, as far as being able to push the story forward through our beliefs.
Right.
Okay.
And then if you have a belief about one of the other people, that would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, I can change one of mine to be like that.
Okay. At this point, I don't think I want to give my character beliefs and everything because I assume the game's going to change by the time we get into like session 9.
Likely. Very likely.
I'd like to hear them because I'm
I was going to
to
say you might want to
GM.
give him one.
Okay. I did have at least one instinct I knew I wanted. So
Okay.
I had my one instinct being never engage in a fair fight.
Okay.
Just because, years of being on a ship has taught you if you're in a fair fight, you already lost.
So you're telling us you want to
Pretty
fight,
much.
and you want to fight directly. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I do think him having one belief is decent because that way, if you have to bring him into the story before you're actually going to play him for whatever reason, you have a little bit of motivation to push him
Okay.
along with.
That's true.
Right.
So should the belief be the sort of tying factor, or like his? So I think if I remember right with the beliefs, right, like with the 3, like they sort of say like, try and make one about whatever the situation is. Try to make one involving some other people you're going to interact with, and then the last one is like whatever your sort of like overall goal or current state of mind is, right? Like what drives you as a character.
Well, let's use
Yeah.
your.
And that's
Yeah,
sort of
I think that. I
Um,
think that last one is probably what you want to focus on, so that way you have a goal-oriented NPC ready to go if you need him.
Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't hear what you said, Golden.
I feel like you should follow your own rule and have a belief about the organization and legendary weapons, or about another character, just so we know how we're going to bring you in when it's someone else's turn to GM. Like, that can change,
But-
but
Yeah. Well, I've kind of talked with Zen a little bit about how the character could come in. I think we have a basic idea. I'm kind of assuming Zen will be the next one because he's not the guy streaming it and he has the book.
yeah, okay.
But you guys can roll otherwise if you want.
Yeah. And we can draw straws. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I've already got an adventure idea, but if Zen wants to go, that's fine.
No, we'll see how it goes, and get a couple sessions in, and if you feel like you want to take over next, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Okay.
But now I have to divert some mental energy into how Nico thinks.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what
I
I'm
think,
trying
I
to
think
think.
that's true for all of us.
I've already written a
beliefs.
bunch of beliefs, but I'm curious, do we want to have beliefs that are things we believe, or do we want to have explicit goals?
Ideally, both, but
I mean, it's almost impossible to have both.
Well,
in
I
my
mean,
opinion,
if you
I know my goals and my beliefs aren't the same thing in life, and it's hard for me to write characters like that. And is that how you
Well, that's
guys
the thing,
think?
though, right? Like, if you have this is where like the gamification comes in, right? Like, do you want something that'll just get you a crap ton of fate points, or do you want something that'll get you an easy persona point?
do you want to keep a belief for a long time and get a fate point like a fate 1 or 2 every single session, or do you want to accomplish a goal every session and get a persona point for it?
Right.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of thinking for my approach to it, I'm going to write one long-term goal-oriented belief,
Right.
and probably 2 other, capable of being accomplished within like 3 session type things.
I have 2 of my 4 because I have loyal beliefs down, but I'm trying to think of the other 2. One is
What
about
do you have so far?
I am the assistant and guardian to Lord W. Doing what he says is most important, and protecting him is second most. I don't plan to mix those 2 up as long as his coin keeps flowing.
Oh, right, because you have a 4th one for your loyalty.
That was
Great.
it.
Okay. Could you say it one more time? I'm sorry. I was typing.
I am the assistant and guardian to Lord W. Doing what he says is most important, and protecting him is second most. I don't plan to mix these 2 up as long as his coin keeps flowing. So
Cool.
it's about doing what he says over actually doing what's good for him.
And so just to double check and reiterate, if we think the belief changed in some way, you lose the trait. And if the trait for loyal gets voted off, you lose the belief spot.
Yep.
That's how that works. Okay.
My second belief is Nico draws trouble like flies to rotten fruit. I will keep an eye on him and find out what mischief he is up to.
Nice.
That's probably a very good one to have, actually, for what I'm thinking.
Yep. But then I want to do one to do with the magic. My three options are one to do with magic in general, one to do with sort of the evil force that awakened, and one to do with the organization, specifically my sister. Actually, I have a good idea. I might make that one. There could be an instinct. No, that seems too. Yeah. Because I really dislike my commanding officer. So I think I'm going to write something about. I'm perfectly fine with other Continentals, but for some reason I dislike all other Continental former military people. I dislike other people like me, basically. I think that's for a lot of reasons. Maybe just higher ups in the Continental military, like his former commanding officer, because he really doesn't like him. I'm thinking out loud now. So let me just type this out.
Yeah, you don't get anything for beliefs causing you trouble, right?
No,
you get a fate point.
Yeah, if they cause you trouble, you get a fate
okay.
point. And if you complete them, you get a...
But if you just pursue them, you get a fate point. You don't necessarily need to cause you trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
So
instincts,
the interesting thing is like putting a
traits are when it's in trouble.
Yeah, the interesting thing is
Or-
like
or
putting
an
trouble in
interesting
front
conflict.
of them and then
Yeah.
make it so the player or character knows that if they pursue their belief, they'll get in trouble, and then they get to decide if they want to pursue it anyways.
So I think Nico's first belief is transporting this cargo is dangerous work but lucrative. I will do all I can to safeguard my goods.
Okay.
So that ties into both the magical artifacts and the organization.
Right.
Nice.
I have like the first part of my first belief, but I don't know how to phrase it towards the second part of that belief. While the islands are still too rigid, they are better than the Empire. And so then I want to say something about like bringing almost very chaotic, right? Like making the islands less rigid. Like that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because everything's too stable because it's on land.
Oh, that was a fun belief. I want you to get that.
So,
I think you need a belief
but I don't know what the twist there is.
Oh.
Now that you'll ensure that the islands don't become like the continent.
Yes, I like that one.
Give us a way you will cause trouble.
Oh, that's why you keep it vague, so you can just cause any kind of trouble.
But if you specify a way, then you change the belief, so that part of it goes
Right.
away, and it becomes a persona factor.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking this was more of my overall thoughts and behaviors right now, not the ties to anything. So,
Okay.
with Zen's suggestion, here's what I have. While the islands are still too rigid, they are better than the Empire. I will ensure the islands do not become them.
There you go. So you're
And that
looking
could go
to
in a
put
couple ways, because it deals with the rigidity of the Empire. So,
and you're looking to throw a political monkey wrench into any island that starts thinking like the mainland does.
pretty much, yes. Yeah. Okay. So I'll start looking into the other ones. Did anyone have a second or third one already?
Well, I have a first one. I need to continually flee from the horde chasing me, or when it catches me, it will mark the end of the age.
Okay.
That's some damn doom and gloom apocalyptic shit right there.
Yeah. Another belief would be learning the history of the legendary artifacts. Well, let me make the next age a better one.
So I think my second one might be like, I don't know much about these artifacts, but keeping them away from the Empire is a good thing. I don't know if that's active enough.
It depends on how available the artifacts are.
And how often the mainland is going to interfere with
Right.
artifacts found on the island.
Right.
So it is a little situational.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's up to the GM to make it work.
to challenge it, yeah.
If the GM doesn't challenge it, then you take off your boot and you throw it at them.
Right.
So I kind of want to do something with like the Cadenfell belief that the islands are like the last bastions of freedom, of personal freedom.
Okay. I like
But
that.
I can't think of an actionable thing to put on the end of that.
Right. Well, you could like be like you could like spread its glory, like right, like somehow, you know, if someone is like, well, hey, you're from Cadenville, you'd be like, yes, and here's why it's so good. Like you can almost proselytize or like just say, try to spread its glory, right? Like, because if everyone hears about how well it is, of course it'll spread.
Right.
Which will conflict with my guy because I'm going to think you're trying to make a second empire.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'm not
true.
going to like you.
Yeah, so like something along the lines of Cadenfell is the epitome of personal freedom, and I will spread those ideals.
Right.
So I have a belief the only evil is the evil of men. And what I want to say with that belief is that like nature is not evil. Only like men's intent can be evil.
Okay.
Can I turn this into a belief regarding one of your characters somehow? Do you have an idea?
I mean,
I'm
I'll
not
tell you
sure.
right now that Nico is a greedy motherfucker.
Okay.
So if you look at greed as an evil of man, then yeah, you can totally turn it into something about him.
And Nico is a member of the organization?
Yeah, he's been smuggling goods for them, like transporting maybe magical artifacts. I don't know if we want to get that high level before we actually start. But he's at least been moving their resources around.
Okay.
I think my last belief will be about Ernest because he's from the Empire, and like my previous two are like, I fucking hate the Empire. And so like, I'm thinking like something like, you know, Ernest is from the Empire and therefore not good. I will always keep an eye on him, or you know, something like that. Or,
Yeah, I'll never be unarmed around him or something like that.
Right,
I mean, that would be
right.
an instinct, but
Yeah, it's like it sounds more like an instinct, but I don't want it to be an instinct. I want it to be a belief, maybe.
well, yeah. What is your?
I will
What do you want to
I know.
accomplish because of your? Yeah.
Okay. So Ernest is from the Empire, and therefore not to be trusted. I will prove this,
I like
or
it.
I will show that this is the case. Right, where I'm like trying to spy on you and be like, haha, Empire scum.
I'm just trying to decide if my character knows about the organization or not. I don't think he does. No, I don't think he does, so I will not have a belief about that at the moment.
Yeah, There we go. Okay, so Ernest is from the Empire and therefore not to be trusted.
Nice.
I will try to catch him in his villainy. Do you like that?
Yes, and I'm also watching Nico, so that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
You'll be watching me, and I'll be watching him.
Well,
And also, I'll be watching Edwin because he's my boss.
So my belief is the only evil is the evil of men, and their wealth belongs to me, as does Nico. Because he's evil and probably has money that's mine.
Okay. Oh, I like this. Hugo Marwick, my former commanding officer, left me to die once. I will return the favor.
Nice.
That's cool.
Personal vengeance.
I'm sacrificing one of my relationships for lots and lots of Artha.
Nice.
To him, and I will return the favor, but I'm going to add to that. Meanwhile, anyone who still... Hold on, let's see. Ernest doesn't care either way for people of the Empire.
I need to open these skulls.
I will show these islanders that not all continentals are as cold-hearted as he.
Okay.
So that's actually a
There
cool
we go.
belief, I think, because on one hand, it's a belief both about vengeance and about how he's not as bad as that guy. So he's going to show them that, everyone else that.
I think I have my two other instincts now as well. So the second one is, my boat is my life. I will always keep up with the status of my boat.
Nice.
So I always know where and what's going on with my boat. And my last one is, the sea is life. When someone insults the sea, I insult them.
Nice. That's your instinct, right?
Yeah, that's an instinct.
Nice. Those are good instincts.
So I think I have mine figured out.
My last belief is the Empire was united through conquest, not arcane trickery. Such magical items don't really exist, and I'll prove it.
Okay.
He was a slave and a soldier. He's never heard of anything to do with magical items that powerful.
Nice.
So he'll probably be quickly proven wrong. But until then, he's gonna walk up to the scepter of don't touch this thing and touch it, because it's not really a magical item.
No, it won't curse you or
good.
Of
anything.
course not.
No.
You're in Dark Souls.
So my instinct is now always remain 20 feet away from Ernest.
What's the range to a fireball? Oh, 20
There
feet.
you
I'll
go.
change that to 21 feet away from
But
her.
how will that cause trouble? You need to reverse it. You
I mean,
always stay within.
He's the muscle, man. If I stay too far away from him, I'm bound to get screwed up at one point.
Instincts
And I'm
works
always
in two
watching
ways,
you,
right?
so...
So you don't need to necessarily have an instinct always for Artha. You can have it as a get-out-of-jail-free card.
One of mine is always be near Lord W, so I can just say, and I'm there, because I was always there,
You were always
in the
there.
corner, in the shadows,
You were watching.
Right.
in my shining armor.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
for my last belief, I kind of want to make it about Ernest because he was a slave and I value freedom.
Ooh.
Like I want to show him what it is to be a free man.
That's true, because
Cool.
now he's not a slave, but he is a servant to...
And he's even still a servant. I'm gonna be in his ear, being like, "You shouldn't be serving this person. You're your own man. You know."
Right.
Okay, cool.
What
That's
happens
totally cool.
when I
man.
agree with you? Well, my beliefs are pretty good, I think. The first one is, when surrounded by darkness, kindle a fire. So he's kind of pyromaniac. I hope that doesn't cause me to light the boat on fire. The second belief is, when I find a good man, find a use for him. So I'll be constantly trying to find people work, and once I become a member of the conspiracy, I'll probably be trying to recruit people. And the final instinct is ask the story behind any ancient item I see. And it specifically ask a story, so I won't be trying to like investigate it. I'll be trying to ask somebody who owns it.
Cool. What's my last one? My first two are always be near Lord W and always maintain my arms and armor. It's important on the salty seas. Don't want that rust. Then what? There's so many ideas. I could go with the classic, when surprised, draw my weapon. But I already have 7 steel. I'm unlikely to be that surprised, even with 6 hesitation. I'm somewhat likely.
Look at the fight actions and see if there's any of them.
I don't have the book.
They're in the.
Oh, they are? Bloody
Aren't they?
versus, here we go.
Aren't they
Yeah.
in one of these handouts?
Fight tests.
No, they're
The
not.
bloody versus test. So there's attack, defend.
Never mind, they're not.
Okay.
I put the dual blitz ones down, but I didn't put the fight ones down.
Can I extend an instinct? Can I have it be always be near Lord W in full arms and armor?
Sounds good.
Sure.
Because that's actually what I plan to normally wear. And always maintain my arms and armor because we're traveling in the ocean and they can wear otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, you could even have it always be ready to protect Lord W.
Yeah.
Because that way you're in full kit, ready for battle whenever
That's
and you're
right.
near him.
Always be between Lord W and danger.
No,
Well, that doesn't
because
necessarily mean that he's ready for it.
my most important thing is doing what he says. To always be ready to act in Lord W's best interests.
Okay.
I don't know if that's too broad, but I think that with what I have in mind, it could basically be assumed I'm always following him around.
It's pretty fair. I think, especially if Sith asks me what's in my best interests, and not you.
Okay.
Then they'll get you in trouble more often.
One more.
Or
one
maybe
more.
if he just has me type it and then you say what you're doing. Something like that could make that, more narrow if we need to. But we probably don't need to.
So since
Yeah, I
Nico,
will do it. When surprised, draw my weapon.
Okay.
So since Nico, primarily a lot of his smuggling involves like forging, bills of lading and identification and stuff. I think my first instinct is always have forged identification relevant to my location. Or is that
what would that entail?
That would mean him always having like forged permits or whatever for that make it okay for him to be where he is. Or always forge identification, and we can. It just triggers a roll because he has forgery.
I'm just trying to think of like in a society where like not a lot of people read, like what sort of identification would that warrant? Like
travel writs, that kind of thing, so I can get into cities.
Or just like a bunker somewhere full of flags you put on ships and stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
I changed mine from when surprise draw weapon to when in a group of equals, take command.
That's pretty good.
Because I was a sergeant, and so it shows sort of the dichotomy between him almost robotically listening to Lord W, between sort of an entirely different person almost when
Right.
he's in charge.
Right, but also it's one of those things, right, where like you don't view.
I don't view Lord W as an equal. I view him as a superior.
Right.
So that's not going to play when he's around. But if he says, "Stay here and take care of the ship," listen up, pirate captain. My boss has charged me with taking care of the ship. Who hired you? Better listen up.
Right.
Nice.
So
yeah, forgery. Do we want there to be like required documents for privateering? Do we want the Empire to like shake down ships and make sure they paid taxes on goods and stuff?
Well, I'm thinking at least that like when you get into port, you have to have some kind of permit to sell your goods.
I mean, that could
maybe
be
there's a lot of, because there are probably a few multi-island corporations or companies, basically,
Right.
like,
Or something
very
like,
few,
you know, like proof of authenticity or something of the goods, right? Like,
yeah.
because like, you know,
like a seal
these
of approval from a
yeah,
company.
seal of approval or something
a
to make
guild,
sure like you
basically.
didn't raid some other boat and just take all their stuff and now you're trying to sell it.
Exactly.
Because that's what the fence is for.
So are we going to assume that there's good communication between the sea states?
I would think it's decent communication. I was like earlier, I was saying like a lot of the bigger islands will totally have like ambassadors or some sort of like person there with their interests. But you know, it's still going to take a couple days for news to travel.
Or heck, like a week. But yeah.
Right. So like
it can take like a day, I think, at least to travel between the closest island to the next closest island. But
pretty much
they're also really slow. Boats are super slow. So if you go by messenger bird or whatever, it'll be way better.
Oh, that's interesting.
I wasn't sure if messenger bird would be able to go between some of the islands.
Yeah, if you're talking hundreds of miles.
Not directly.
Right.
Let's look that up.
Some of them are only 100 miles, or like 100 and something. So,
or like messenger birds would work for communication on the same island.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, if we want to get into like what the function of those tiny islands that aren't on the map are, they're way stations.
Yeah. Their average flying distance is around 80 kilometers per hour or 50 miles per hour. So that'll be nothing for them.
That's true. Okay.
Cool.
So they can literally travel like 20 times the speed of a boat. A day versus an hour.
And there could even be like messenger bird boats that are, you know,
like
relay messages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
There may be like a specific species of bird that isn't in reality. Like
so similar to like a carrier pigeon.
Yeah, some kind of heron that eats fish.
Carrier pelicans.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's like some of them can go like really far, right? And so it's like, you know, like black albatrosses or something, right?
Maybe they use falcons for messaging.
That's very possible.
They're going 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, they would definitely need special training and stuff, but it's very possible if you want to send like a special message. The thing about the way messenger like homing pigeons work is that they find their way back to their nest, and then once you release, the message is basically just one way, and then you would have to cage it up, send it back the long way on a boat or something back to you, and then you could use it again after like a week.
And even then, you send like a dozen to make sure one gets there.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Did everyone remember to add the culture traits to their sheet?
Yep.
Oh, the culture traits? No, I didn't do that.
Yeah, I do not have them on the front, but I have them in my burner worksheet.
Remember to put those on.
I think Nico's second. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say for Edwayne, the culture traits for that island were stubborn, impetuous, and superstitious.
All right, thanks. That sounds right.
Yep.
Cool.
And cultural traits are all character traits, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have to work out a third instinct, but Nico's second one is going to be, if there's an opportunity to make money, take it.
Nice.
So next week, we begin our adventure.
The wheel will burn.
The wheel will burn. We will set it to light.
Nice.
And
Cool.
Pretty good.
Fire Lord Sith will begin his reign.
You know, if I wouldn't get really weird looks from my neighbors, I'd go put a wheel out on my front lawn and burn it. But, you know, they'd probably think I was something else.
I'm sure if you YouTube
Rednecks
for,
are true hipsters.
for a burning tire, you'll do pretty good.
Yeah. Like our Skype window picture, or Skype picture for the group.
Yeah.
We can't show YouTube on Twitch, of course, but
No.
thanks, YouTube.
Well, thank you guys for watching.
Yep.
It was very fun. Happy birthday to all of you other people whose birthday are
Happy
today.
birthday to you.
Thank
My
you.
cousin's birthday is tomorrow.
She was close, but just missed.
No.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, I had a great time. I hope everybody else had a great time.
Yes.
Yep.
Every
I'll
character's
probably-
nailed down.
I
I'll
hope
probably
that
be
yeah.
messaging people on Skype and stuff just to clarify some stuff, but I think we should be good to go next Sunday.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right. Well, everyone have a good night, and I hope we see you next week. Okay. Remember, give me a follow if you want to, and if you don't want to, rah!